Later, that's when you will be given an opportunity to call in and interact with our guest. Welcome to this week's edition of The Burning Issue. I'm your host, Zachariah Banda. Now, today we are going to have a wide discussion on a number of current affairs that we will definitely be dwelling on, and it will be important that you actually take note of that so that your contribution or your participation is in line with what we would have discussed. Otherwise, that we are live on the Happy World of 5 FM on 89.9 in Lusaka and the surrounding areas. And don't forget, we are also live on our partner radio stations. We are live on Katete FM, and Katete FM is covering the entire Eastern Province. Just to name a few, Sinda, Petauke, and of course, Chadiza, as well as Katete itself. And we are also live on our Facebook page. Don't forget, that's 5FM Radio Zambia. Also live in Kabwe. We are in Kabwe and the Central Province on Spice FM on 91.1 FM. And also in Kapiri on ZFM 103.3. And of course, or rather, ZFM is on 100.3 FM. And Katete Radio is on 103.3 FM. And don't forget, we are also live on the Copper Belt, and we are live on Platinum Radio in Ndola and covering the rest of the Copper Belt on 99.7 FM. Up north, we are live in Mansa and covering the rest of Luapula Province on our favorite radio station, Tuta FM, there on 90.7 FM. Also, Copper Belt, don't forget, further on in Chingola, we are live on iWave FM, 90.1 FM, and of course, they cover the rest of the Copper Belt. We are so grateful. Mchinga Radio is equally on, and Mchinga Radio is on 88.1 FM. Yeah. So later on, like I earlier said, we'll give you an opportunity to call in and interact with our guest. And for now, let me take this opportunity to introduce our guest. He was here not long ago, and that simply means that he is back this soon because we have a couple of pressing and burning issues. And Mr. Frank Bwalya, he is the UPND Director General for Media in the Presidential Support System. Good to have you, and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. As you said, it's not a long time when I was last here.
Yeah.
And it's not because there's a lot to talk about. It's because when you are in government, our party, the United Party for National Development, is the ruling party. So when you are in government, you have to continue interacting with the citizens, the voters, the people who put you in power. One thing that every Zambian would appreciate is the fact that it is not possible for our president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. It's not possible for the ministers, including some very senior party officials, such as the Secretary General and so on, to come to radio stations, to come to TV stations, such as this one, as regularly as we can afford, as the wider members of the media team, wider members from part of the wider membership, from the structures and so on. So those of us who belong to organs of the party, institutions within the party, such as the Presidential Support Program, which I belong to, and I'm Media Director, Director General there, it is our responsibility to come as often as possible to platforms such as this one so that we interact with the Zambian people, with those who vote, the electorates. And we interact with them also on behalf of the president and the government, not but because we know what government is doing, know the challenges that government faces. We know very well the promises that were made because we are part of the party. We know which promises have been fulfilled. We know which promises are yet to be fulfilled. We know which promises have turned out to be very difficult to fulfill. So through people like us, people like Frank Bwalya, Max Mue, various of our members, the people on behalf of the leadership. So it is good that you have continued to be open to us, whenever we call on you, and sometimes you invite us because there are burning issues.
Of
And this
course,
program is called
the burning issue.
the burning issue,
And,
so
yeah,
that we can speak to us.
yeah,
And it's important that politicians don't run away from such things, because the people need to scrutinize us. And how do they do that? They have to do it through platforms such as this one. So allow me also to take advantage of this opportunity to commend highly institutions, media institutions such as 5FM and many others who are doing a great job, objectively, professionally, observing ethics, but without compromising the standards that are expected of you as a mouthpiece of the people, because you also speak for the people, and through you the people speak. So I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad that you've come, because also it coincides with the fact that, well, first of all, the fact that you are Director General for Media in the Presidential Support System
Program, yes.
and I believe that you are in the right position to equally try and add a voice to the fact that the president's name come into the so-called leaked voice allegedly made by Honorable Chavinga, where from time to time the head of state is mentioned in that voice, and alleging that the president called Honorable Chavinga 12 times. This has become an issue in the public domain, and a lot of people are saying if the president is being associated to characters such as Honorable Chavinga, then his name is not sitting well in the public. And I think that there's a lot of PR that needs to be done, or indeed a lot of damage control that needs to be done. How do you feel when a president's name is involved in such voices that have been leaked? What does it put the president at? Where does it put the president at?
Thank you. Allow me to begin by saying there is a wise saying in Bemba, and I'm sure you can find it in other tribes as well. Kabilo wansoni tapuisha milandu. Kabilo wansoni tapuisha milandu. Meaning that when you are sent to go and deal with a matter, to preside over a matter, if you are shy, avoid touching on certain issues because they are awkward and things like that, you will not be able to conclude the matters that you have been asked to go and deal with. You can't effectively handle those matters. So this issue that you have made reference to, given that background I've just given, is an awkward issue. It has potential to embarrass government. It has a potential to embarrass all of us as a country. And one may be tempted to run away from such issues. That's why I said, Kabiro Wanson, tapuisha milandu. Takuli kuvutuka. Go on the spot, be asked questions, answer those questions. If you can, explain what is going on and so on. But before I actually focus on this specific issue, allow me to digress a little bit, not to run away from the matter. We shouldn't run away from any issue that is raised by the media, because that would mean running away from the people that elected the UPND government. So we have to be there, listen to their concerns. Sometimes their criticism can be quite harsh, but we have to take it in and listen to what the people are saying. Allow me to say this when I said I'm going to digress a little bit. There is no government under the sun that is perfect. And I'm not trying to say something wrong has been done, and it's because this government, the UPND government, is not perfect. I'm just making general observations or repeating things that people already know. There is no government under the sun that is perfect. Scandals will be there in government. Scandals are there in our churches. Scandals are there in our companies. And we are seeing some directors of companies, of course, people are innocent until proven guilty, but it's there in the public domain where a director of a company is arrested allegedly for stealing money from his own company or a company that he is a major stakeholder, such as a director and so on. So these scandals will be there because of the human condition, because we are human beings and we are weak and prone to making mistakes. But as the Bible says, to those who has been given, more is expected. So the government, President Hakainde Hichilema, more has been given to him and more is expected. More has been given to us as UPND in terms of the mandate to govern this country. So more should be expected from us. And so when people raise concerns and we think that those concerns are driven by a genuine effort to ensure that the government is above the board, the president is above the board, and that the president does a good job to carry on his shoulders that national integrity that we should all be proud of, we should be able to listen to the people. So when we come to a program such as this one and these matters happening in the community, we are not coming to defend the president. We are not coming to defend the government. We are coming to listen to the people. And when the people ask questions and we have answers to those questions, we should be able to provide those answers. That should be made very, very, very clear. Now, coming to the audio, I've listened to the audio. And I'll limit myself to the specific question that you have asked me. If there will be follow-up questions, if callers will ask more questions, then we'll deal with those as well. You are right. You are correct when you say that in that audio, which I've also listened to, as a matter of fact, I saw that audio. You don't see an audio, but you see, I saw the, what can I say, the artwork and
images attached to the audio.
The images, that's correct. The images attached to the audio. I saw that on Facebook, but I was traveling to Monze for the funeral on Friday. I think that was on Friday. And I didn't have the time to listen to it. When I got home, my wife did not come with me to the funeral. She alerted me about this video, which audio, which I'd also seen, but not listened to. So I listened. A few friends, some from the opposition, some of them in a manner that can be described as mocking, sent it to me. Mleti Poshani praise singer. They are no longer calling me Mushani na Bwalya because I made it clear that for this year I'm not Mushani na Bwalya, and I may not go back to Mushani na Bwalya. I'm now at the level of Mushani na Munani because I've got enough maize to take to the mill, which is just near our place, to have mealie meal. So if you see me dancing, I've been saying to people, I'm not dancing for Shima, but I'm dancing for Erich. So I listened, and yes, the president is mentioned in that audio. It's true. It's mentioned. The president's name is mentioned in that video. A few other people are mentioned, or so to speak, implicated, but I hesitantly use the term implicated in the sense that the term implicated has this connotation that there's a prima facie case of wrongdoing and other people are connected to that wrongdoing. As things stand, we don't know if there was indeed any wrongdoing. What seems to be clear to me from that audio, if it is authentic,
You think it isn't?
I don't know.
You can't make your own judgment?
I don't know if it is authentic or not. I've interacted with my brother, Honorable Chavinga. Honorable Doreen Mwamba is like my sister to me. We have got a history. I've lived in her mother's house in Ndola when she was there. So she's like my sister. She's like my sister.
They're both denying they didn't have that conversation?
I've not spoken to them about that audio, whether it is authentic or not. But I was about to say, I have interacted with Honorable Chavinga. The voice in that audio sounds like his. They have interacted very, very well, as I said, with my sister, Honorable Doreen Mwamba, and people who know me in my private life would attest to this. And I want to underscore in my private life, because there are many people who don't know who there is privately. So when I go to Monze, And I'm talking about my father, who is a typical Tonga who has died in the village, and I'm there as a prominent member of the family. Some people are shocked because they don't know. Some people think I became Tonga because I joined UPND. It's very laughable. Tonga to prove that he really has joined UPND.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's because people have not followed you, especially who you are privately.
Right.
Some people may remember, actually, again, we are digressing. Some people may actually be the Great died in Moya village, west of Monze, in the area where the president comes from, Amapande. And I went to that funeral, and I did spread some photos on social media. It wasn't as robust as social media is today, those days. But I did circulate some photos where I was being hugged by this group of people, many of them clad in UPND t-shirts with the image of the president. It was at that height of the campaign during the 2015 presidential election, after Mr. Sata died. And some people who may not have seen that, some of them could even have seen that, think that this is the first time I'm going to Monze, and I'm only trying to look Tonga or to claim that I'm Tonga because I've joined UPND. It's very laughable. But to a certain extent, only saying this because he has now become UPND to justify that. I'm Tonga because my father is Tonga from Monze. I've always known this. My mother is from Luapula. When I campaigned for President Sata, I knew I was Tonga. When I campaigned for President Lungu, I knew I was Tonga. I was approached by UPND to endorse President HH at that time, but President Lungu had approached me first. He was the first one to approach me. By the time some people from UPND says, come and work with us, because people forged some alliances, it was too late. My brother, Dr. Nevas Mumba, can actually attest to the fact that he came to my house in Makeni with my brother, Rafo Nakachinda, to talk to me about the same matter. I said to them, I've already committed myself to campaigning for President Lungu. Now, coming back to the issue.
Yeah.
So their voices in that audio, to me, sound like they're authentic. But I don't know. Those voices could be authentic, but picked from various conversations, put together to come up with something like that. So I don't know. At the end of the day, as I said, such recordings, when they are leaked, whether something like that really happened or not, they have got potential. The name of the president, the context within which it is mentioned, we have to look at that. And it is our responsibility as members of the UPND, especially those of us, explain the context, because some ordinary people who are listening to that audio or are listening to people interpreting that audio may be misled. The audio, in that audio, Honorable Chavinga is not saying the president has given him money to bribe judges in South Africa. That's not what he says. And it doesn't imply that. It doesn't imply that the president wants to give him money or the president has given him money to go and bribe judges in South Africa. No, that's not what the audio says. But some people want to create the impression that our brother, Honorable Chavinga, was actually given money to do that. From the way he speaks, if this turns out to be authentic, those are thoughts that himself harbored, those are things that himself believes in. Are they right or wrong? It is wrong to bribe people so that they rule in a certain way. It is illegal, it is wrong, it undermines our justice system. Is the UPND guilty of this? Is the president guilty of this? Now here I'll tell you what I know. What I know about this audio, I'll tell you, and where I don't know, I'll tell you. One thing I know is that the UPND government, under the wise, hard-working, able leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema, does not operate like that. If the UPND, if President HH was that kind of a leader, then we would have seen all judgments coming out of our courts in favor of government, especially where it is critical. One example is the issue of the Constitution. That was critical. people know very well that we have a president who, for very good reasons, want to stop by-elections, because we can't continue wasting money on by-elections. And the issue of stopping by-elections is something over which we have consensus as Zambians. I know some people would say there's no consensus. Honestly, how can somebody say, I don't agree that we change the constitution to stop by-elections? Maybe in terms of what you, how exactly you do it, maybe you may say you have reservations there or you have different views, but we are all agreeable that we have to stop by-elections. As a matter of fact, the fact that we now have a presidential running mate instead of the vice president being appointed by the president, and the provision in our constitution after 2026 that in the event that a sitting president dies, you don't go to an election. It's not called a by-election, by the way, at presidential level. It's just called another election. You don't go to an election to elect the president. The vice president takes over to finish the term in the same manner President Lungu, but for him he was elected actually. That was before 2016. This constitution came after 2016.
Yeah.
But in the event that the president dies, the vice president takes over to finish the term. So it's clear that even all these amendments, these progressive amendments, such as we saw after 2016, are because as Zambians we are agreeable. We have agreed that we should not be going to by-elections. So the issue of the constitution, the current constitution making process, went to court. It was critical. The president wants to see by-elections stopped. The president wants to see, and all Zambians, as a matter of fact, want to see more women guaranteed participation in public affairs as members of parliament and so on, the youth, people living with disabilities. The president is determined, and the Zambians were equally determined to stop this bad law of the Electoral Commission of Zambia calling for fresh nominations each time a candidate sponsored by a political party withdraws. Now, these should not be matters over which we need to build more consensus. So when the matter went to court, of course, there are other proposals under Bill 7. Some people may have genuine concerns under that, but that is part of life, and that's how governance is supposed to be done. So one would have expected, this is the point I'm trying to make, because I'm touching a lot of things, digressing and so on. People may lose me, some people may lose me. The point I'm trying to make is this. If this government has this culture of using money for judges to rule in its favor, that would have been one of those, if they have to be rare, one of those rare occasions where you should have seen that happen. And it didn't happen. I know some people would say, well, maybe the judges collected the money, but still ruled against it.
Yeah,
that's when these sentiments.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
These sentiments only come up when a Bemba is discussing with a Ngoni, or a Lozi is having a debate with a Tonga, and they are said in a joking way and so on, just pulling each other's legs and so on. But the bottom line, on a serious note, is that the people should have seen the government doing that. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. And some people are saying, no, those judges in the Concord couldn't have decided otherwise because they were not appointed by President HH. All those who were appointed by HH actually did not agree with the other judges. Now, let's go back a little bit. Some of those judges, including the president, were part of the petition, if I can call it a petition, to determine whether late President Edgar Chagwa actually qualified to stand in the 2021 presidential election. And some of those same judges actually ruled in favor, if you can say in favor of that petitioner, which at the end of the day was the position that government held. So how do you reconcile that? At the end of the day, we can say that our judiciary is independent. There may be a few people in the judiciary who may take bribes And in this case, just bribes in general. Just bribes in general. Somebody has a matter before a certain judge, they use a lawyer, they use a businessman, they use a relative, and so on. That's why I started by underscoring the fact that we are human beings, we are weak. That's why we have got laws to limit those instances of breaking the law with impunity, breaking the law at will. So the name of the president has been mentioned. We are not worried because the context within which the president is mentioned imputes no guilt on the president.
And now that the Lungu family have presented that to court, how much damage does that do in the court process? Because obviously the fact that it's presented in court, it's trying to prove that, see what we're saying.
It's laughable.
This government means no good in as far as burying the remains of our father, grandfather, any good. Yeah,
it's frivolous. It is laughable. But let's wait and see. Maybe the family has gathered enough evidence that money was released to pay the judges, and that the judges have actually been paid, and therefore the outcome would be in favor of government. Maybe the family has that information. You see, Frank Bwalya is not the type of person who, when he hears something, he would simply dismiss it as, no, this is not correct. This is propaganda. The education that I did as a priest for many years and thereafter, the education that I've done, you have to look at things objectively and logically. Objectively and logically. I call it laughable because from face value, you can't use such kind of audio to really strengthen your case. You can't. But that's why I've said, to give the benefit of the doubt, that's why I've said that maybe the family have got information that we don't have. And therefore, they think that it will strengthen their case. So let's wait and see. Maybe we are going to get more information, including establishing whether that recording was authentic, and what is being discussed in that audio is actually what transpired. For now, I don't know, but I'll tell you what I know. What I know is that President Hakainde Hichilema is a man of integrity, is a man that is carrying the integrity of this country, the respect of our country on his shoulders. I will tell you what I know, that he has made it clear that he wants President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, our 60th Republican president, to be buried in Zambia. As a person who ascended to the highest office in this land, and therefore, in line with the protocols that we have established for ourselves, the culture, and to a certain extent, some of the laws, because laws are not just the statutes, the written statutes, but also the precedents, that is case law, what the courts decide, the conventions that we ascribe to, and so on, so that President Lungu can be buried in Zambia in a manner that accords him what the office he once held demands or deserves. That is what I know. What I know about the audio is that it is circulating. I know that Honorable Chavinga has mentioned the president. I know that in that audio, Honorable Chavinga is said to be discussing with Honorable Doreen Mwamba. That is all I know about that. As time goes on, probably we may know more in terms of its authenticity, in terms of what really happened, if something happened. But I also know that state has distanced itself from this, and they have been very, very categorical that the president wouldn't call somebody, let alone on a matter of this nature, 12 times. But that's what Honorable Chavinga said. Video, that question can only be answered if in the first place that video is established to have been authentic, which I don't know. But I'm sure as we go on, maybe we'll learn the truth and the truth will set us free. But at the end of the day, President Hakainde Hichilema will not be deterred to continue executing his mandate, the mandate to preside over the affairs of this country with primary focus on fixing the economy, inviting investment into various sectors, firstly by the Zambian people themselves, some foreign direct investment, fixing the mining sector, fixing the problems that we have in the health sector, fighting corruption, and some of the policies that are being put in place, of course, are paying off. Having, for instance, instances, that is the cases that were reviewed by FIC in the 2024 a report, reducing from 55 to 40.
What would you allude that to?
In the public sector, definitely it's because of what government, the commitment of government, because corruption thrives where there is no political will to fight corruption. When there is political will to fight corruption, the institutions charged with that responsibility are strengthened. The laws are reviewed, made stronger, and that's what the UPND has been doing from day one. So the fact that a lot of people have gone to jail because of corruption, being found in possession of wealth that they cannot explain, this is not proof of political persecution. It's proof of a strengthened system mechanism to ensure that those who are found wanting go to jail. As a matter of fact, if we included those non-conviction forfeitures, if that were not in place, and this is part of the best practices internationally observed, that list, the people who have been going to jail for corruption would have been higher. But there are many who are found with wealth that they cannot explain, and they voluntarily say, well, instead of me going to jail, there's this provision, send in. And that way, government recovers something instead of going into courts and the matter is protracted. At the end of the day, it's the Zambian people that lose. And that, as a matter of fact, is the rationale for this law, the non-conviction forfeiture. That is the rationale of it. So these are some of the things that I know about this audio, and I know the president is not deterred. The president continues to save the Zambian people. And in the last 2 weeks, as Zambians will have observed, in the last 2 weeks, the president is not sleeping, engaging various stakeholders in energy, in the banking sector, in agriculture, and so on. It is as if to say, now that we are halfway in 2025, we are halfway, we need to revisit, to evaluate the performance, the potential of some of the stakeholders who may not be doing as much as we expect them, and the president is having these meetings. And very soon, we are going to be seeing the fruition of what is being agreed or resolved in these meetings. Because when we saw such meetings last year and the other year, then we saw Mamba Collieries, for instance, securing the money that they needed for their expansion. Then we saw the president working with various stakeholders, including banks, to launch, as an example, the 100 megawatts solar power project in Chisamba. And some people, including Dr. Fred Membe, the leader of the Socialist Party, are saying that project was Edgar's project. It's not a UPND project. Humility, intellectual humility demands that when you are corrected, when facts are presented before you, you accept that you were mistaken, that you are wrong, and you correct yourself. Talking about the multi-facility zone in Chisamba, that's another thing. You may mention your MMD, you may mention PF in setting it up and so on. But this project, and part of it, 100 megawatts, initial 100 megawatts that were launched, because the whole project is in modular form. This is an initiative of the UPND with the president personally and heavily involved under that project of coming up with 1,000 megawatts of solar power as part of dealing with the issue that we have, the biggest issue, the elephant in the room, the power deficit. That is part of that project.
Let me bring you to the fact that we are still mourning. And of course, during the fact that there's a pending barrier. We now know because the president has publicly said, he is unable to travel, for example, deliberately because he feels, it would not be morally right for him to be traveling around when he's still mourning his predecessor. How much effect does this have on the economy, or indeed global relations? Because travel is most of the times probably he's going to have bilateral meetings that eventually mean investment into the country, and I think he has loudly said several times that he's the chief marketing officer of this country. How much does that affect his marketing strategies, the fact that he can't go out and lobby? And for as long as we don't bury, how would that affect him?
I'm not the president's spokesperson. I'm not part of the media team at State House, but I would still answer that question looking at what I've seen happening and also interacting with the team that are responsible for that communication at that level, at that institution. What I do believe is that the president was not traveling at one time, that is locally, because of that. But as time goes on, these things are changing. The dynamics are changing. We may see the president traveling locally. That is, locally, we may see the president traveling. We may not be surprised if we see him at Mutomboko. We were not surprised when we saw him in Livingstone. We are not surprised when we see delegations coming to State House to engage with the president. Some of them actually called or invited by the president, because life must go on. The country must not be put on pause. The country should continue. It is very unlikely that the president will travel out of the country for something where he can delegate. It is very, very unlikely. There was a time when the president, of course, was not traveling, and we saw him miss a few events here and there. I don't think going forward, at least for this period, I don't think going forward that may be the case. But as the issue of the death of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu continues to unfold, it is still unfolding. It is still unfolding.
And as a diplomat, I would like you to touch on the fact that this funeral seemed to have potential of having an effect on diplomatic relations with South Africa, most likely, and probably even other countries around.
So let me conclude on the issue of how is it affecting his work as the chief marketing officer of the country, inviting investment and so on. Our president is a smart president. He's a smart president. So if the president could not go to the office because there is COVID, he would have worked at home. And he may have put in even more than perhaps he would put in going to the office. He's a smart president and is able to adapt. Is governing a country from a wealth of knowledge and experience from his corporate world experience and so on. So we don't think that it is affecting the president's work to a point where Zambia would regret. It is just for this period, and the president made it sure when the official national mourning was called off. The president made it clear that we needed to get back to work and normalcy. And therefore, if in the next coming few weeks, probably to be, if President Lungu has to be buried and another national is called for that period, we shouldn't be surprised. This is actually expected. So we do believe that this is a temporal setback that is not affecting the work of the president in a manner that we can really regret, because the president adapts. He's a smart president, and during this time, you've seen he has had many, many meetings with important stakeholders in energy, in agriculture, in finance, and sometimes he gets into a one room, various stakeholders, so that when he's talking about energy and there's need for banks to come in, make money available in terms of loans and so on, the banks are there. The banks are there. And you can see that the president, even from his attitude, the way he's handling these matters, you can see that you have a president that is in a hurry to grow the economy, who is in a hurry to double the economy, knowing too well that what he has left on his table in 6 years is 6 years. What do I mean by 6 years? I mean 1 year from the first term and 5 years from the other term. So we're very sure that Zambians will vote for President HH next year, because doing the contrary would be like ukufunye nkoko pamani ali 18 ero ninshi yinkoko iri mupepi n'okutota ero yinkoko yali kwata history iya kutota bwino sana. In English, not voting for HH next year would be like grabbing a chicken, a hen that is incubating 18 eggs so that you can eat that chicken. It doesn't make sense at all, especially that this chicken has a history of a very high hatch rate. So you don't do that. In our culture, you don't do that. No human being does that. You allow the chicken to hatch. Maybe it's after 2 weeks and it's 21 days for a chicken. It means that you are only remaining with a few days. And this example has come to my mind because as we were leaving, my worker waved me down. I stopped and I said, what is it? And he said, I can hear some chicks in the incubator. It seems we have some good news there, and I just thought that I should tell you, so that even as you go, because that excites me, it makes me happy. So
Right.
voting against HH would be tantamount to grabbing a chicken that is incubating a lot of eggs to be eaten. What are these eggs we're talking about? All those meetings the president has been having even this meeting this week and last week, those are eggs being incubated to have more power, so that we can drive the economy. Free education that we have, those are eggs that were incubated, they hatched, and more eggs are still being incubated in terms of ensuring that we have more classroom space, in terms of making sure that government employs even more teachers so that we can continue to reduce that teacher pupil ratio, so that the government can build more roads and infrastructure in rural areas, including delivering electricity, so that our young people, I want to emphasize young people, although it's not only young people are sent to these schools and some have already been there, that our young people, when they are posted to these rural areas, the first thing on their mind is not how to get a transfer out of that place. How are some of these vulnerable communities going to receive an education if everyone doesn't want to be there? And some of them may be justified in the sense that there is no infrastructure. Maybe there is a school, but the health center is too far from where the school is, and so on. So this president is in a hurry to ensure that generally the infrastructure in rural areas is improved. And I'm therefore very happy to know that government is constructing or redoing the road between Luwingu and Chaba. And it's a long distance. I've driven on that road several times, and it takes ages to bituminous standard. So when you do that, just akuleta fiamanenekela, there will be development all the way up to Chaba, and it will make a huge difference. After that, under CDF, money has been provided for councils to buy graders and fuel provided, so that now you can do the feeder roads, and people would spend less time to get into the main road. And once they get onto the main road and drive to wherever they want to drive to go and get some farming inputs, to go and sell their produce, to bring maybe somebody who is sick to a bigger hospital and things like that. So this president is in a hurry. This president, upon being elected, his government incubated eggs for improving flying doctor service. I think that's what they call it. Pardon me if I have it wrong. And those eggs were hatched. That unit, for the first time in the history of this country, has got a chopper, I think 2 or 3, if I'm not mistaken, a fixed wing plane to bring our brothers and sisters, our mothers, some of them who fell because they've got BP, they didn't know, they go to bath, and now it's very cold, maybe they're not using warm water, immediately you pour your water on your body, something happens, you have a stroke, you collapse in the bathroom, what do the children do? There's a health center there. There could even be a small hospital, but it doesn't have the capacity to handle such a case. You call flying doctor service and a chopper goes there, or a fixed wing, if there's an airstrip, goes there to pick up your grandfather, to pick up your uncle, to bring them to a bigger hospital to them. And when they are treated, to take them back. This means that even the eggs for airstrips they are under incubation. So there will be more airstrips built around the country. That in itself means creating jobs, because those airstrips, when they are being worked on, you employ people to work on them, mainly the youth. And when it is done, you need people to look after these airstrips or aerodromes, as they call them. And then we also have other airports that are being upgraded so that they become international airports, such as Mansa. A lot of money is being put in there. People would be employed. This would spur development in the northern circuit, improve tourism, but also generally advance that region. And at the end of the day, all these advancements put together, that's what you call Zambia moving forward.
There's there are a lot of people out there, especially in the communities.
You also asked me to comment as a diplomat.
Yeah,
is this what is the implication?
Very brief.
Yes, I'll be very, very brief.
Yeah.
When you talk about diplomatic relations, you're not talking about children who are so touchy, who are so sensitive to matters that don't really matter. You're talking about countries with established protocol and so on. Countries with very educated people managing these diplomatic relations. And they understand. They even take, they are aware about what happens. So what has been happening in South Africa because of our president dying there and so on, the South African government are not childish. They're not children who are reading into these situations things that are not there. And we should never be misled to believe that the president of South Africa is not speaking to President Lungu. The Minister of Foreign Affairs here is not speaking to his counterpart and so on. No, there are long established traditions of even sharing intelligence. So they do talk, but they will not come to a program like this and the president says, no, I called my brother Cyril Ramaphosa. I called him 5 times. He wasn't answering, but the 6th time he answered. No, that will not happen. So people should not worry. We have a team at Foreign Affairs, at State House, other stakeholders, including the South African embassy here in Zambia, and everything is being done to ensure that our relations remain strong and get better. The matter at hand, yes, can seem to be very big, but it's a very small matter because of its nature in the first place. We are not having a trade war with South Africa. We are not trying to fund uprising in South Africa. No, we are just saying, as the Zambian people, through our president, that our former president, 60th Republican president who died there, should come to be buried here. And because we failed to get that, we have gone to court in South Africa, which means first and foremost, we respect the laws in that country. And in order to seek redress, you go to the courts in that country.
Now, let me bring you back to the fact that people on the ground, and day in, day out, we get these phone calls of hardships. Cost of living is so high, still so high. Amid this, the fact that Kwacha is obviously getting strength against foreign convertibles. Fuel prices are coming down slowly, but the impact of those two is not being felt in the immediate by the community. And these are questions that they keep bringing across. Hey, bakambat fuel ya bwerera, but still on. Mitengo zama basis is bwerera. And I think that the president had brought out this concern as well in one of his official meetings. And I think that he emphasized that Honorable Tayali needed to make sure that transport costs is reduced. Again, huge gap between gaining and fuel coming down and the impact not being felt on the ground. It's a really happen, though?
We have a mixed economy in this country. There are certain policies that clearly show us to be, advancing some socialist or promoting some socialist provision of free education, the way our healthcare system is structured, and so on. But it's also a liberal economy where you have private companies doing business in this country and following the principles of such enterprise, including laws that are very familiar to many of us, the law of supply and demand, and so on. So the government is in a very awkward position in the sense, I'm qualifying this awkwardness, in the sense that the government cannot dictate prices. But the government that promotes the welfare of the people, as the government that has put in place policies, mechanisms to ensure that, for instance, the price of fuel is going down or is stable through open access, for instance. These are policy interventions that the government has put in place, having a direct effect on the price of a major input, and that is fuel. So government is justified, but still in that awkward position in the sense that it cannot dictate the prices. And that's the president, as a person who champions the cause of the people, at the same time understanding how business operates, is been very, very diplomatic. But as UPND, as a party, we are relieved by the fact that the same stakeholders complain that when the price of fuel goes up, prices of all commodities will go up, are speaking. We can't say they are speaking for us. They are speaking for the people. They are speaking and demanding that producers of goods and services respond in the same way they do respond when the prices of energy in general, including that is electricity, go up. It may not take a short time, but what we do know is that the message is going out. And at the end of the day, as inflation continues to go down and more goods are being produced because there's availability of more energy, and of course, we are not at 100%, perhaps not even at 80%, but there's more energy now. I'll explain what I mean by that using my personal example. And the price of fuel has gone down. You expect that not even in the long term, in the short term, in the midterm, maybe I should say in the midterm, more goods and the prices of more goods and services will go down. So we don't agree that the Zambians are not benefiting at all. We don't agree that nothing is happening to show that the price of fuel has gone down for diesel consecutively, I think for 4 months, that the kwacha has strengthened. We don't believe that nothing has happened. Because in the first place, when the price of fuel goes down, something has happened. Because it means that for me to come from State Lodge, where I live, to come to this program, I'm going to spend less fuel. If I'm going to spend more fuel, it means I need more money. And since I don't have an income, I don't have a steady income, that is about the cost of living. It means that for me to live, it's expensive. It's expensive. But when the price of fuel goes down, I may even manage to go and collect a goat that was given to me. In fact, goats, because those 2 goats were given to me during the wedding, and now I'm told they're about 30 or so. Then I can manage to buy fuel to go and collect those goats. Maybe I can sell them. Maybe I can keep them somewhere. I want to believe that whereas I failed to buy a fencing wire to put at a certain place that I have, because it's in the first place not that the fencing wire is expensive, but that transport to take them there is expensive. I may actually manage. What's the point I'm trying to make? And I'm not trying to take a trivial approach. The point I'm trying to make here is that the mere fact that fuel has been increased makes a huge difference, but it can make an even bigger difference if we see that cascading all the way down to issues such as transport. Now, again, on this one, I may sound like I'm not touring government line, or I'm not supportive of government program and so on. You see, sometimes fuel is increased, bus operators don't increase the bus fares. These things do happen. Sometimes government engages the bus operators and says to them, look, yes, fuel has been increased, but you can't. Through, of course, the bodies that work with bus operators and whatever. I'm not too sure what they call them now, but there are those. I want to believe that the president's remark to the Minister of Transport will has already triggered some discussions so that you see bus operators and consider reducing. And I'm very, very confident that that reduction will come. But when it comes to these, abama lift, fieba makanta, balefuma abantu kuwa mapande okubaleta mu Monze, balefunya abantu mu Luingu kubatwala kuchaba, those reduce very quickly. Because at the end of the day, the people just be saying that kwetendala mana imwe few bali bwesha. Na nomba mule tulipirisha 20 kwacha papeni hapa. Okay, 10 15 kwacha. And that's part of life. So we continue to urge consumer protection associations, including our own statutory body, to continue engaging. I'm not saying to put pressure. We've done that also as UPND, as a party, but to continue engaging producers of goods and services so that, yes, they make a profit, but they shouldn't exploit our people by not responding positively to positive in our economy owing to the good policy intervention in the new Dawn government are putting in place.
Yeah, this government again has been noted to have failed really to manage the health sector, considering the fact that we keep having the Zambia Medical Supply Agency, ZAMSA, in the news and all the time around irregularities in procurement and of medicines. I mean, what do you think is the best solution in handling this medical supply issue for once and for all?
I'm not an expert, and I cannot claim to be very competent to comment on these matters. But from a layman's perspective, and as a media person, of course, you need to be eclectic to know a lot of things. What I can say is that the way governance is, a government would be, a political party would be elected, such as we're elected as UPND. Of course, I was in UPND in 2021, but I'm UPND now, and I speak as UPND, even during the time when I was not there. And that should be very simple and straightforward. So when the UPND or a political party is elected to form government, you find, say, for instance, talking about this particular issue, that you have is lack of medicines in hospitals. The people will complain about lack of medicines in hospitals to you as the ruling party, because in Piana Mango, a Piana Namabala. Stop complaining because I found no medicines. I'm working to put medicines in hospitals. You can't take that approach because government does not stop here and another one starts there. It's the same government. And in the minds of the people, there's no distinction whatsoever. It just means that even when you are in the opposition, you should have had your plans in terms of how you're going to deal with the problems that are already there. The UPND government did a lot to ensure that you have the required standard of medical supplies and material in our health institutions, which has been done to even above 80% in certain areas. That's an achievement. But even before the people can celebrate and give credit to the government for this, there is another problem that has arisen. So on stage one, you are saying this government has failed to provide medicines. There are no medicines in the hospitals. They are giving us prescriptions. The government provides medicines. And there isn't even a window for celebration. Immediately another problem starts. Medicine stolen. So then you go to stage two, where the government is being accused of having failed not to put medicines in hospitals, but to stop theft of those medicines. Then you go to the next one, just like that. It's a kind of circle. I won't call it a vicious circle, because even as these things are improving, because the hospitals that are being built are not being stolen, they're still. Some very good people are being trained. We're a Christian Some very good people are being employed in the health sector, and the UPND unprecedented numbers of recruitments in that space, and they are taking care of our people. But more needs to be done by the UPND government. President Hakainde Hichilema, I speak to you. More, sir, needs to be done. Not as if you don't know. Not as if you are not paying attention to this matter. We know, but we still have to speak. We are members of the public. We want to make sure that those people who are stealing medicines, as you said, are brought to book. Yes, you have assured us, but that will not stop us from continuing to talk about this matter and to ensure that you ensure that the police do the job. They should not be bribed by people who have stolen a lot of money by stealing medicines, and they've got the money to bribe officers. Sometimes dockets or statements are written in a manner that makes it difficult for the state to secure a conviction and things like that. So, then, of course, you don't do this institutions. You have people that you work with. We know, just sure that those who are guilty of crime, which is a very, very serious crime, this is equivalent to even more than murder, because our people are dying because of lack of medicines in some institutions when those medicines were bought by government. So we're very confident that the government has political will. We would be worried if this government didn't have political will. How do we prove that? This is a government that commissioned a forensic audit to get to the bottom of these problems. And you see, a prudent and good government, when you have a perennial problem, will always come up with something like a forensic audit, so that once you have this thorough, by an independent, as a matter of fact, this thorough investigation, you can put in place more sustainable, more stringent measures to address the problem. Giving my own personal example, and I put sometimes these things on Facebook so that when I'm speaking on a radio station such as this one, people don't think that I'm cheating, that I'm lying. I have been feeling unwell for some time, and I spent 2 months in Katuba working on our house after a tenant left, and I've got this numbness on my hand. This time it is mainly on the fingertips. So I've been going to our clinic at State Lodge. Sometimes when I get there, people seem to panic. Maybe some think that I'm going there to spy. Then I went to Challenge Level 4, Level 1 hospital, and I was attended to there. I was asked to go and do some tests at Metropolitan, if I'm not mistaken. I went there. I didn't pay anything. I didn't pay anything at the Challenge Level 1 hospital because I am a fully paid up member of NIMA. And I and my wife and my dependents, if I'm not mistaken, I pay 60 or 80 kwacha. I have to counter check that. And I do that religiously. I didn't pay anything. After a few hours or a day, the results came to my phone. I printed them in my house, went back to Challenge Level 1 hospital, presented those results, and